Welcome to Journeys of Success, our series featuring colleagues from across the Short Group whose personal journeys and professional impact continue to inspire. This episode shines a light on 4 women who make a real impact behind the scenes, supporting crew, advocating for people, and helping everyday operations run smoothly, safely, and with care. Today, we are focusing on crew welfare and HR advocacy, the work that often happens quietly but plays a vital role in maintaining safety, efficiency, quality, and trust across our maritime services. With me today are Kristina Rittgerodt, General Manager at Hanseatic Maritime Health in Hamburg, Germany, Cordula, HR Marine Manager Sustainability at BSM in Hamburg, Delna Shroff, Training Superintendent Mental Health and Wellness at BSM's Maritime Training Center in Mumbai, India, and Claudia Scorpaniti, Fleet Personnel Officers at BSM Cruise Services in Hamburg. Thank you all for joining today. It is great to have you here. To kick off our discussion, let's start with what usually remains in the background. Most people believe that ships are powered by logistics, fuel, and precise timing. But behind every safe operation, there's something less visible holding it all together: people. And more specifically, the people responsible for people. So I want to start with this. Can each of you give us one quick example of a moment when you quietly made a difference on board? Just a snapshot each.
Okay, I'll go ahead and start if that's okay. With Hanseatic Maritime Health, so it's not me, myself, as Kristina, but it's the company and what we do. We provide telemedicine for our vessels, so they contact us anytime someone's not feeling well. We've had sometimes emergencies, someone has a cardiac issue or whatever. The team will support the master, support the crew, recommending medication from the medical chest, giving advice on how to support, ensure the seafarer is okay. And it's quiet because you'll never know about it. Because of the support they're receiving on board, we avoid a deviation, you're avoiding a helicopter coming out, the person recovers while they're on board, or if not, they're taken care of until they can get ashore. So it's quiet because there is no huge drama things happened. It's not a crisis. It's maintained on board the ship, and the seafarers are supported and they're safe. So that's a quiet moment for me.
For us, and when I say us, I mean the crew welfare team that we have in BSM. So it's mainly me and my colleague, Anastasia. I think for us, it's turning feedback into action. In order to improve crew welfare, we depend on seafarers' feedback. So we are collecting data via crew surveys or the seafarer tour feedback. And we are looking at all this feedback. And I think many seafarers think they put something in there and no one is actually reading it. No one is following up on it. I think showing them that something actually happens and that we are following up on it, even sometimes it might take a while. That's probably the quiet difference that we make. And just one specific example, we did a survey on the gym conditions within the BSM fleet, I think beginning last year, beginning of this year. And we just realized that a vessel was sharing that they don't even have a gym on board. It was just recently taken into management. And I think no one really was aware of this because obviously the focus was on different things initially when the ship came into management. So when we shared this feedback internally, they were like, oh, okay, yeah, no problem. We can provide something. And the seafarers were really happy, I think, that something happened and that it was taken seriously and it happened quite quickly. And I think without them sharing this, it might have taken a bit longer. So I think this is a small, quiet impact that we have turning feedback actually into action.
We conduct mental health sessions, me along with my team, Lydia and Roaldo in Manila. So through these trainings, one thing which is very important is building psychological safety. So it's basically creating a climate where the seafarer feels safe to speak up, where he feels safe to raise concerns, whether personal or professional. So one thing which we highlight is when crew members feel safe to speak up or to admit mistakes or to raise a concern, it directly impacts safety. It impacts the team dynamics and operational performance as well.
Claudia, what about you?
My job is the rotation plan, but also it's nice to hear the feedback for the crew when they arrive safe home, when they arrive on board. Also, we are pending, since I have experience on board, I always involve part of the crew welfare because the Phoenix fleet is involved the crew welfare on board, and it's like a combination between the safety and conscious and the mind of the people on board, plus dedicate to the rotation plan that they are everybody equal with the month on board, with the month ashore, and to be sure that the crew is satisfied with our service, of course, and safely.
Let's ground this quickly in one sentence. What does your job look like on a good day?
One sentence is a bit difficult. On a good day is that we have no medical emergencies as a company. For me, a personal good day is when I can spend it with our seafarers, talking with our seafarers, listening to our seafarers, and finding out for them face to face on what's working well, what's not working well, and what we can do to support them further when they're on board. I think these personal conversations that we have gives us insights that we really would not be able to capture in any KPI, any data, or any statistics that we have. It's that personal connectivity and connection that we have. So for me, that's a great day. But it's also just as great when I can speak, with I see Delna and Cordy and Claudia, because the interaction that we have between the group, and that's what's amazing with the Shota group, is that we have so many people around the world where we're all focusing on the same things. That when we get together and we just do our conversations and we see we're completely aligned and we're moving forward in the same direction and we all want the same thing.
What about you, Cordula?
Okay, I really try to stick to one sentence here, which is difficult because I totally agree with Kristina. Yeah, I think a good day is when we realize that even small actions can make a difference. So small actions taken together, they can have a real impact. So I think I would go with that one.
I agree with Cordula and Kristina. It's a good day for me is when the seafarer leaves the training session feeling more confident, more connected with the shore side, and better equipped not only to look after themselves, but also to reach out to fellow seafarers who may be struggling silently.
What about you, Claudia?
Actually reach our goals, which means basically take care. Most important is our crew, which is the one that it's on board and struggling sometimes.
And now the harder truth. In one sentence, what does it look like on a bad day?
It's just a learning process, how to deal with a new experience. Could be, I don't know, maybe when we have medical disembarkation or we have from one day to another, someone who cannot join the ship and someone needs to suffer, stay longer. There is different experience and situations that we have to deal with. For me, even like this, it's not a bad day. It's just to have a little bit pressure to have the ability to help and to reach our goal, which is, I don't know, fill up the ship, comfort the crew member to safely home, to read and keep in mind the necessities in general from the company, from the client, from the crew.
What about you, Delna?
I think a bad day is every time you hear of a critical incident, an injury, where a seafarer has perhaps lost a limb or has had some sort of an injury. Perhaps he was struggling in silence. So when you hear of such news, it's very heartbreaking.
Yeah, I would go with what Delna said. I think it's about learning about incidents that involve our crew. Luckily, they are rare, but of course, that's the worst scenario, I would say. Also frustrating or a bad day is, of course, when we want to turn something into action and we don't have the means or the chance to do so. But definitely worst is learning about incidents that involve the crew.
A bad day for me is also really when we lose a seafarer. And what's even more disheartening is when you start looking into what's happened and you find out that perhaps there was something that was missed or something that was not reported or warning sign was not identified. For us, it's like one of the big things is, trust and transparency is so important. Anything is, we have to, like Donna said, they have to feel comfortable speaking openly, talking with us and asking where they need support and help. So that's a big one for me is that being open and talking about it, you guys, it's strength to reach out. Yeah, it's not a weakness.
A lot of what you do is never labeled as operations, but it absolutely affects operations. So I want to ask, what is something you do that directly impacts safety, moral, or performance, but would never be recognized as doing that?
Yeah, I mean, from our side, what I can mention is the health and well-being campaigns that we are running on a quarterly basis. So we do something that is about, or that is helping to shape a more healthy lifestyle for the crew. We do crew discussions, crew activities that is supposed to boost crew morale. We're sharing tips on well-being, on health tips, preventive actions, basically. We work together with a lot of departments within BSM to get feedback. So as Kristina mentioned, we work internally together with HMH as well, that we have feedback when they say, for example, they realize that diabetes is a common issue on board. And we did something on healthy nutrition. We had a low sugar week that some seafarers liked a lot, others maybe not so much. We did sports competitions because we realized, this saying, I think, mens sana in corpore sano. So it's very important and linked mental health to physical activity. So I think this has an impact also definitely on moral, but I think also on safety, because a healthy and fit and happy seafarer is also one that performs safely or performs better. Then I think also listening and seeing the person behind the name and not just a number, to connect with the seafarers. We do that during FLMs, also when we are receiving feedback and interact with the seafarers, technical webinars. So this is all a moment, I think, when we have the chance to connect with our seafarers. And I think when they feel seen as a person, that definitely has an impact, not only a seafarer, on anyone, basically. And then I would also add sharing feedback that we received internally so that it was being followed up on.
I know you work closely together, but do the rest of you recognize that in your own work as well?
I definitely do. I mean, like Cordy says, it's the interactions that we have, vessel visits that we do on board, the FLMs, the direct conversations that we have on crew. There's also initiatives occurring at the different CSCs with the different crews going on to find out things are happening. But as you mentioned, I think the most important is that we're working with not a number, it's a person, and everything that's done, there's something behind that person. Each person's an individual. Each person has has things associated with them, and we need to be a part of that to understand them.
Maritime is a system of constant pressure, but people do have limits. So how do you balance operational pressure with human realities like fatigue, isolation, or mental health? And how do we bridge the gap between corporate wellness checkboxes and the actual reality of life at sea and being on duty for weeks on end? Cordula, you want to go first on this one?
So I think it's very important to start recognizing that crew welfare or crew well-being isn't separate from operational performance. It is actually operational performance. So a not well rested and not happy seafarer is also likely to perform less safely and affect safety and performance overall. I think bridging this gap is when we actually start listening to the seafarers, or keep listening to the seafarers, and involve them in the solutions. And for that, we have established, for example, on the crew welfare side, a program that is called a Welfare Ambassador Program. And this is specifically actually to involve seafarers in shaping crew welfare. So we interact with volunteering seafarers that share their feedback on specific topics we share with them, and they provide their direct feedback from the ships. And this is then what we use in order to shape initiatives internally.
That's super interesting. Claudia, what do you think?
I can say experience on board. As a head of department, I was a chief person on board, and then you have to take care about all the behavior and all the signs that the crew member may show you. So it's very important from my point of view that the head of department can see these kind of signs and behavior, and working on overtime, for example, giving a space to the crew member as well. If, for example, turnaround days, they are working very hard, try to compensate the other days. Also is very important that conversation with the crew member, the feedback. Me in my position as now, same as crew on board. And also it's very important crew welfare. Why is important crew welfare? Because in combination with the people on board, the head departments, we have many different nationalities on board, and they have different kind of celebrations. Try to put together, I don't know, the Philippines day, or we have Philippines, Ukrainians, Russian, and to try to compensate these days to feel it a little bit at home in somehow, despite that they are far away from the family. And all these small things is creating a smooth work-wise, because actually they are spending more time on board than at home. And everybody has necessities. And from the company side, as my representative, to be on board and listen to them and be sure that everything is, the crew members listen. And as mentioned before, there is not a number, is very, very good for them. It's very important to support, and the crew member feel the support of us, of all of us.
And if I can add just one thing to what Cordy and Claudia mentioned, like it's the listening that they mentioned, it's recognizing different symptoms, the colleagues, talking to each other, checking each other. But sometimes there's also an investment that, is also important. It's really important for our seafarers to have access to communication. They have to be able to just talk with their families. Decent internet connectivity. I mean, this is available nowadays, and we should really push for that to be having it. It helps with the mental health from our seafarers as well. Having the additional medical support services like HMH. And also, I mean, Cordula, you guys have done some initiatives on the comfortable living conditions at home, but I mean, home on board the ship, because these guys are on board for a very long period of time and the ship is their home. And so we should make that as comfortable as we can for them, realizing that they spent so much time in these close quarters. So the things that we have at home as standard, a decent mattress to sleep on, a good quality of sleep, these little things are very, very important. And we should do everything we can to make sure that we give this also to our seafarers.
Yeah. Maybe let's ask Delna here. What are the early warning signs that a crew member is struggling, and how can perhaps their peers step in without overstepping?
So when we look at early signs are rarely loud. At times there are subtle shifts in routine. Sometimes it could be an officer who is withdrawn and confined to his cabin. He may stop interacting with the other crewmates. There could be sudden changes in appetite or skipping meals, or there could be subtle behaviors like irritability, for instance. Sleep difficulties are common, and sometimes a noticeable change in behavior. I think how peers could step in is one is we don't need to diagnose, but what is most important is that simply notice. When you notice subtle signs, it's important to check in, what we call emotional check-ins, where you are concerned and you listen, you offer to listen without passing a judgment. Also encouraging the person to access the available support, the helpline if needed. So yes, I think what's important is breaking the isolation with a casual check-in, even when you're doing your routine rounds, which enables the person to open up, creating a safe space for an uncomfortable conversation. Yeah.
Thank you, Delna. Now, you all operate in a space that is highly operational and still quite traditional in structure. So let's be direct. Have you ever had to defend the importance of HR or welfare decisions in that environment? Kristina, you want to go first?
Sure. Unfortunately, I have to say yes. There are times, I mean, if I'm looking at from HMH side, I mean, I've got tremendous and enormous respect for NGOs and other companies provide, services, organizations. But I mean, health is personal. And in my opinion, the relationship that we have with our seafarers should also be personal. So we're talking about not an isolated case, but when we talk with our seafarers, it's the whole health and their well-being, the long-term support of our seafarers. I was trying to think about this question, how do you really answer it being nice? But it's not about being nice. At this point, it's about providing our seafarers, in my opinion, what they need. And they need to have access to medical support anytime when they're on board. They need to have a trust. They need to build it up with someone, this trust and transparency, and to know that, what, if you go and you tell us what's happening, we're there to support you. It's not going to affect your employment. We're there to ensure that you're aware of what's going on, you're aware of the medical requirements, and you have the support that you need. And so everyone out there, for all our things, get the support. Sometimes a small invest is a great support for your seafarers, and it builds it up.
From my side, I can say it has been similar. So I can also think of a couple of occasions, and it can be very frustrating at times. But I think what keeps us going is then the feedback that we get from seafarers for what we have done. So even small things like the campaigns I mentioned earlier, we had this sporting competition and we got so good feedback from the seafarers that even said, I'm sharing some pictures and videos here, but you cannot even imagine the atmosphere on board. There's no way to express how much it has boosted morale, how much the team spirit is increased, and how everyone enjoyed this. And even those that didn't want to participate then ended up being there. This is something that is, keeping us moving and it's encouraging us. So even if when we have to defend what we are planning to do, I think this is still helps us to not get frustrated and to just keep moving. And I think there is also this growing recognition, as I mentioned earlier, that crew well-being is important. in order to also keep safety at a high level. So I think that's the bright side, basically.
And what actually determines whether you're taken seriously in those moments? Is it experience, authority, timing, something else entirely?
Yeah, I think experience always helps. And I think it's also about having the right timing and consistency. So not get frustrated or discouraged, just keep going. And what certainly helps, what we found out, is if you have data to back what you're saying. So if you have specific examples from a ship or a specific picture, or I don't know, something that is backing what you want to say, backing your argument. And I think that's the one that actually makes a difference. Not just to say in general everything is bad, just be specific and back it up with data.
Claudia, what about you?
Yeah, this is true. I mean, I can say more experience for on board that related to the crew welfare when they make activities, they program, I don't know, crew parties, or depends the destination that you are, you make like tour for the crew, so or special days or sports or employee of the month. They found a way to feel important inside, no? Because it's very important that they feel safe and they feel care.
Thank you. Let's look forward. If you could instantly pass one global regulation to make crew life better tomorrow, what would it be? Delna, you want to go first?
So I think one important global requirement would be to place mental health, give it the same level of importance as physical health, which starts with awareness, access to resources, and making it safe for people. Also, building pathways on board which will strengthen and create a culture of care, genuine care where people look out for each other, not just depend on the top four, but even the junior officers play a very important role in building a positive and happy environment on board.
Good environmental will be the global regulation, because if the not top four, actually the head of department, because each ship has his part has a head of department, has a good knowledge, has a good training, know how to teach and know how to guide, down will be guiding accordingly. If you have a stress and you transmit this stress, if you have bad temperament, you will forward this to the rest of the crew, and will be very hard for the person to wake up next day and to find out that again shouting again a bad atmosphere. So it's very important to have it. This is good guidelines, needs to be good environmental. Work-wise, it's just affected on board because you are living 24 hours with the same person. That's why.
I've got one that I would love to change tomorrow. We equip our seafarers, with tools they need for training, to respond to fires, to flooding, all kinds of onboard emergencies that we can. But when it comes to a sudden cardiac arrest, where really every minute matters, not all of our vessels have access to one of the most effective life-saving devices available, and that is an automated external defibrillator, AED. The AED is really simple to use. It requires very limited training. It really can improve the chance of survival when used together with CPR. The most important is that it empowers the seafarers to really have something that they can additionally do while they're waiting for that professional medical assistance, which can be, hours, days away. The reality at sea, as we know, it's different than at shore. I mean, here, if we're in the office, you call the ambulance and it arrives within a few minutes. On a vessel in the middle of the ocean, they don't have that feasibility. And for that reason, I really say we should really make that legal change to require that every ship has an AED on board. It's a small investment. It has a potential to save a life. And for me, it's a no-brainer. It's simple. Get it on board.
Absolutely. And I can also see that this does something with mental health of the seafarers, right? Just knowing that there is something they can do when they get in a situation and not just wait around until help arrives. Cordula, what about you?
Yeah, I think one global regulation is super difficult. There are so many things that come to mind. I'm probably somewhere between some global standard on connectivity, or basically from a welfare perspective, I'd probably go with removing any restrictions on granting shore leave for seafarers. Because, we all know, I think that seafarers need shore leave for their mental health, for relaxation, for refueling, just to feel or see something else than the ship environment they are on for a very long time. So I think removing all the limitations that currently exist for letting seafarers go ashore as much as we can influence that. They should go, and I would even go further and say there should be additional support and even arrange for free transportation from terminals that might be far away from a city, just to have the seafarers, to give the seafarers a chance, and those that, for example, cannot afford transportation, that all these barriers are taken away. So that would be my one.
Now, before we close, one final practical question. What is one small thing companies, managers, or colleagues could do differently tomorrow to support crew better? Delna, you want to go first?
I think listen more intentionally, because sometimes we find that even a simple conversation where a crew member feels genuinely heard can make a big difference. Make regular check ins a habit rather than waiting for someone to show visible signs of distress. So, listening plays a very key role, in my opinion.
I totally agree with the listening. I would say care first, but I hope all ship managers they do care about their seafarers. So I would go with care, truly listen, as Delna said, and then also act.
Yeah. I will go for the same. Care, listen, and take action. And motivate to the crew to report if it's needed. To report, to not hide, to not be scared, and listen them and take an action.
I'm going to go with the rest. Is taking the time to connect with, to listen. And as Cordula mentioned before, act where you can. We know that small conversations build trust. Trust is a foundation of well-being, safety, and a strong onboard culture on board that we want to have on board all of our ships. And in my opinion, often the most meaningful support that we can provide is our time, and not only our time, but our genuine attention. And just know that, you are heard. We are here.
Thank you. The work of supporting people often happens quietly, long before problems become visible and long after a contract is signed. It rarely makes headlines, but it definitely shapes safety, resilience, and the experience of every person on board. At least this is what I'm getting from our conversation here today. We have had the privilege now of hearing from you, 4 women whose work actually makes a real difference to life at sea. So thank you again for sharing your stories today and your expertise. And thank you to everyone listening. We will see you in the next episode.